Well, the pineal gland sits right at the base of the third ventricle. And inside the pineal gland are these tiny little calcium carbonate crystals. They're stacked rhombohedrons. They're stacked on top of each other. And if you find the research, and I found it, the pineal gland has been called a neuroendocrine transducer with piezoelectric properties. Now, those are just big words. But piezoelectric effect is when you take a mechanical stress and you apply it to some crystals, and it begins to produce an electric charge. So then the act of inhaling and bringing that breath all the way to your brain with passion and squeezing those muscles, and yogis can do this really well, and holding your breath, you're exerting pressure against that pineal gland. And as you start to compress those stacked crystals, you begin to produce a piezoelectric effect. And now you're taking a mechanical stress and you're turning it into an electrical charge. Now you're electrically activating those crystals. And those crystals are very sensitive to frequency. And all of a sudden, when they become electrically activated, pineal gland becomes like a radio antenna. And now it can pick up frequencies faster than the speed of light. But when the pineal gland becomes electrically activated, it literally begins to produce a resonant electromagnetic field. And now that begins to send a signal out, and those crystals stretch until they can't stretch anymore, and then the field reverses and it compresses those crystals, and all of a sudden you have a little antenna right up in your pineal gland. And now it can pick up frequencies that are faster than the wavelength of light. That's called the quantum. And all of a sudden now it will pick up a frequency and transduce. And a transducer is like a television. It takes a frequency and turns it into a picture. And all of a sudden the person has an inner vision. And that inner vision is more real than the world we're sitting in right now. And melatonin then starts to turn into some very powerful chemicals. One of them, or two of them, are the most powerful antioxidants known to man. Anti-cancer, anti-aging, anti-heart disease, anti-stroke, anti-neurodegenerative, anti-inflammatory. Another chemical is the same chemical found in hibernating animals. No sex drive, no appetite, no preoccupation with the outer world. The inner world starts to become more real. The body moves into stasis. It's the same chemical where the caterpillar becomes the butterfly. Take the molecule, tweak it again. You have a benzodiazepine, fits in the same receptors. What it does is it suppresses the survival centers in the brain. Take the molecule, tweak it again, and now you have the same chemical found in electric eels, a very powerful biophospholuminescent chemical. Tweak it one more time, and now you have dimethyltryptamine, the most powerful hallucinogenic known to man. And now, person's going on a vision, and that's why it's called the third eye. I call it the first eye because now it's releasing its elixirs, and we start having very profound dimensional experiences.
Would you be able to leave us with a tip of some version of this breath that people can try on their own at home to maybe get a little flavor of what we're talking about here?
Yeah. If you could use the same muscles right now, contract the muscles you use for elimination, front and back, and you were to lift those muscles up, you would be lifting up your pelvic floor, your perineum. Those are the muscles we're going to use to contract the energy related to the first center. If you were to pull your abdomen in and touch your belly button to your spine, you would be contracting the second center, where you would begin to milk the energy out of the second center. If you contract your upper abdomen, now you're contracting the muscles that are related to that center. The act of inhaling through your nose while you contract those muscles, coupling those together, is the act of pulling that energy. Where do we want it to go? Right to the top of our head. So if you took your finger and you were to place it on the top of your head and work your finger now in there, and then take your finger away, if you can keep your attention there, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So that's your target. So the idea then is to close your eyes and to inhale, and at the exact same time that you inhale, to lift those muscles up and in, and with the intention of pulling the mind out of the body and liberating energy, pulling that energy all the way up into your brain. As you inhale, one slow, steady breath, follow it from your perineum, through your lower abdomen, through your upper abdomen, through your chest, through your throat, through the brain, all the way to the top of your head. And when you get to the top of your head, hold your breath, and now squeeze those muscles a little bit more and just pump that fluid up against the back of your brain and hold it. and then you exhale, relax, and feel. Now, in the beginning, when you learn anything, you have to practice it, and it's mechanical. But as you keep practicing, it'll become more intuitive and less step by step. It'll become one motion. So the act is inhale at the same time, perineum, lower abdomen, upper abdomen. And as you inhale, you follow that breath all the way up through your chest, through your throat. Keep inhaling through your brain to the top of your head. When you get to the top of your head, drop your shoulders down, straighten your spine, squeeze those muscles a little bit more. Put your attention on the top of your head and just push that fluid a little bit, compressing the crystals of the pineal gland. Hold for a few seconds and then relax and feel it in your brain. Now, I would recommend when you do this to play some music that has no lyrics, but has some drums or has some music that you can interpret as the movement of energy. If the energy strikes your brain, don't be afraid of it. It's just the liberation of energy. Let it happen. Take a moment, keep your eyes closed, and do it again. I would recommend 5 minutes in the beginning and work your way up to 10. Usually people who do it properly have a very significant amount of energy in their brain. We now know that this breath creates more brain coherence. It increases the amount of energy in the brain. It activates the autonomic nervous system. And our brain scans show that it stimulates the pineal gland. And those are all the important things to have a mystical experience. Thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. So most people have experiences in their life that brand them emotionally. They feel fear, they feel anger, they feel bitterness, they feel frustration, they feel insecurity. And those emotions then become part of their identity. So once they think certain thoughts that turn on certain circuits in their brain that are equal to their insecurity, and then they feel insecure. The moment they feel insecure, they think more insecure thoughts, which makes more chemicals for them to feel insecure. And the repetition of that cycle over time conditions the body to subconsciously become the mind of insecurity. So then the person says, I am insecure. And whenever you say, I am anything, you're commanding your mind and body towards a destiny. So then most people's biology is, for the most part, their past. And so if you're not being defined by the vision of the future, some new possibility in your life, you're only left with the old circuitry in your brain and the old emotions of the past. So the question then is, can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the experience has already occurred? Now, the latest research in neuroscience says you can change your brain just by thinking. So then, as you begin to think about a new possibility, and your brain begins to fire in new sequences and new patterns and new combinations, and you begin to plan your behaviors, and you begin to review in your mind, mentally rehearse who you're going to be in your life. The mere action of mental rehearsal begins to install the neurological circuits in your brain. Now your brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's in fact a map to the future. And if you were then to begin to emotionally embrace your future before it's made manifest, in other words, you're not waiting for your healing to feel wholeness. You're not waiting for your new relationship to feel love. You're not waiting for the mystical moment to feel awe. You're not waiting for your success to feel empowered. That's the old model of reality, of cause and effect. In other words, the materialist, the person who's waiting for their wealth to come to feel abundance, they're living by that model of cause and effect. But the quantum model is about causing an effect, which means you begin to experience your own worthiness and your abundance before it occurs. You have to feel wholeness in order for your healing to occur. We have to feel love for ourselves and love for life in order for us to have love in our life. And so then to instruct people how to teach their body emotionally how that future could feel like before it's made manifest, if they do it properly, their body as the unconscious mind begins to believe it's living in that future reality in the present moment. And they're beginning to signal new genes in new ways that begins to change their body to look like the event has already occurred. So the process of change in the meditative model requires unlearning and relearning. It requires breaking the habit of the old self and reinventing a new self. What we say in neuroscience, pruning synaptic connections and sprouting new connections, unfiring and unwiring and refiring and rewiring, unmemorizing emotions that are stored in the body and then reconditioning the body to a new mind and to a new emotion. No longer signaling the same genes in the same way, but signaling new genes in new ways. Beginning to pull your energy out of the past and beginning to invest your energy into the future. What we're teaching people how to do is not to pray to have their prayers answered, but to get up from their meditations as if their prayers are already answered. Because when they're combining that clear intention of their future with that elevated emotion, they're literally changing their energy, they're changing their brain chemistry, they're changing the way their brain works, they're changing their genetic expression, they're changing their chemistry. They're literally becoming somebody else. And over again, when people do this, it may take them months to turn their disease around. But over and over again, we've seen this. They come back to a certain level of awareness, and the disease is no longer there. And it's almost like the disease existed in the old personality. They're literally someone else. And we've seen it enough times now to know that people reach a certain point with themselves where they feel so whole. They feel so satisfied with who they are. They feel so happy with themselves and their lives that they could care less if they have the disease. And that's the moment it goes away over and over again.